Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Thursday so far. It's finally nice and sunny out here in Boise, so we're thankful for that. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. We have a really awesome SEO from home for you guys today, and we're going to be diving into that in just a few moments here. But if this is your first time enjoying the show, welcome. This is SEO from home from Page One Power. My name is Ben Jacobson. I'm the host here. And SEO from Home is a series that Page One Power put together with kind of the attempt to keep the SEO community connected while we are all kind of working from home and working remotely. And so this is our attempt to share some insightful and actionable information to the SEO community, and hopefully give you guys some nice takeaways to be able to increase the traffic to your website. So without any further ado, we have a fantastic episode here today. We're going to be talking with Sherry Bonelli. She is the owner of Early Bird Digital Marketing, and she's going to be talking to us about Google My Business. Google My Business, I'm sure you're very familiar with it, but we're going to be talking about not only the initial portions of setting everything up. I think most of us probably have that pretty well down, but what we're going to be talking about today is more the optimization of Google My Business, especially if you're running a local company, something that has like a brick and mortar store. This is going to be especially important. But as you see, there's going to be areas that I think that are going to be valuable to just about everyone across the board. So if you guys want to ask questions, please, we encourage you to ask those questions in the Q&A box down below. We'll do our best to get to those in the moment if we can. If not, we'll do our best to wrap all of those up at the end. Sherry's going to be giving us a presentation today. So if you guys have any questions, like I mentioned, pop those in the chat. If you do have to step away for any period of time today, fortunately, we're going to be recording this and we do have those up on our website, typically about 48 hours after we finish up the stream today. So if you guys missed any portion of it, no stress, we got it covered for you. So I think that just about covers all of the business to-dos for us today. Sherry, I'm super excited to have you here today. Thank you again so much for taking the time to talk with us. Tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be going over today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So we're going to talk about search engine optimization using Google My Business. And as Ben mentioned, we're not going to talk a lot about the whole claiming process because hopefully most people have already been through that process. We're going to talk about a few little gotchas just in case you are going through that claiming process. But most of the discussion today is going to be about optimizing what features are out there that you should be utilizing and sort of some strategies that you should look out for and trying to make some of the sort of gray areas a little bit more clear for you. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it and get a lot of information.
Awesome. We're looking really forward to it.
Are you ready to go?
I think we're ready to rock.
Great. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see it?
Looks good on my end.
Awesome. Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As Ben mentioned, my name is Sherry Bonelli. I own a digital marketing firm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Early Bird Digital Marketing. I've been doing digital marketing for 23 years, which is insane right now if I look back on it. I focus primarily on search engine optimization, but do content marketing, reputation marketing, all of those services as well. I'm a Google My Business Gold product expert, and I also have my master's degree in internet marketing as well. And what we're going to talk about today is primarily how to show up in Google My Business. And obviously, anybody who owns a small business or works with small businesses, you want to show up where your customers are. And Google created Google My Business to help not only searchers find local businesses, but to help local businesses be found by those searchers. And Google is really the place you have to be. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Google Local 3-pack, and that is how claiming your Google My Business listing is how you get found in the Google Local 3-pack. And this is what it looks like. It is when you do a search for maybe restaurants, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and you will see a map and typically 3 listings underneath it. That's the Local 3-pack. Now, don't fear if you're not in the top 3, you can also show up in what we call the local finder. And if you click on more places, you'll see more results. And by showing up in the local finder, you have a chance to be found by customers that way as well. You can also show up for branded searches, and that is if a business or a consumer searches for your business name. Now, if you have a generic name like Atlanta gym, for instance, you probably won't show up for a branded search because your business name is so generic that it's just keywords. And so you'll have a less likely chance of showing up for a branded search. But if you have a unique business name, chances are you will show up with a knowledge panel, and that will appear on the right-hand side like we have for Amanda Brandt here. And so that is great exposure for you. If someone already knows your business name, they're looking up information about your company and they want your phone number, for instance, or to find your website or your opening hours to see whether you're open on that day, they can just do a search for your business name and find a ton of information about you. And Google is really your new homepage in a lot of respects because they brought out so many new features that they can get a lot of information and can make purchasing and buying decisions almost right from your Google My Business Knowledge panel. And that's pretty cool. So Google has made it so they have so much information available to consumers right at a glance. And that is so awesome for both the searchers as well as for businesses. So you should take advantage of every little bit of information and all the features that Google makes available to you. And a lot of those features are based on whatever business category you're in. And so some of the features that I'm going to show to you today, you may not have those features available to you because of your business category. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're going through the presentation today. Now, every local business that serves local clients should claim their listing if they're eligible. Now, you want to make sure that you're first eligible for a Google My Business listing. And there's a link on the bottom of this slide that goes to Google's guidelines for representing your business on Google. Now, online only businesses cannot claim a GMB listing. They're not eligible. I was talking with a digital marketing agency yesterday, and they were wondering why their client was suspended. And I went to the client's website, and it says that they're an online financial company. They work only online with customers. And I told the digital marketing agency that's why they're suspended. This business isn't eligible. Online only businesses that don't serve local customers can't get a listing. So he's like, oh, well, that makes sense. So, there's certain businesses that just don't qualify. And what I always tell people is it's not an entitlement to get a GMB listing, because some people are like, well, I should get one. No, you're not eligible. If you don't qualify, you simply don't qualify. And so it's very important before you even start the claiming process to read the guidelines and ensure that your business qualifies for a GMB listing. So read those first and then always go back to those guidelines because Google changes them frequently. Sometimes they'll add a line with new rules that will make a complete difference as to how you should do something with your listing. So bookmark this page and go back to it frequently. I say once a month and read through them and make sure that no changes have been made. Because if they do make a change and your listing isn't in compliance, it can get suspended. So it's very important that you review these listings, the guidelines frequently. So your profile or your listing, you'll hear it referred to several different ways. It shows so much valuable information. It shows reviews, your business hours, posts, when you started your business, all sorts of information. And up-to-date and complete information is really crucial because customers want to see that. And 70% of people are more likely to attract local visits, and 50% of those people that find up-to-date knowledge panels are likely to lead to purchases. And so a completely filled out GMB listing versus a competitor that maybe only has one picture and doesn't have any reviews, they haven't filled out their business hours, your listing's going to stand out much more than a competitor that has done virtually nothing.
And Sherry, we had a question here real quick.
Sure.
Steve asks, does this mean that only brick and mortar stores can be listed?
Nope. And we're going to talk about the difference
Right.
between a service area business, which is also eligible, and a storefront. So that's a great question, Steve. And we're going to talk about that because I would say most of the issues I find on the help forum, and we're going to talk about how you can get to the help forum as well, are because people don't understand the difference between a storefront and a service area business and what you should do correctly to claim a service area business. So we'll talk about that, Steve. I'll answer all those questions for you throughout the process of this presentation. So we'll get that all figured out for you, okay? So just some of the features that are available: categories, posts, a business description. If you are in certain categories like fitness or hair salons, people can actually book appointments directly from your GMB listing. Hours of operation, videos, pictures, I mean, you name it, there's lots of features. It's far beyond the name, address, phone number, Ben, that you're probably remember from years ago. But along with that comes more headaches because there's things that can go wrong and people don't know how to, do things properly. So that's why it's important for everybody to understand the process, procedures, and how to do things properly. So as far as claiming your listing, we're not going to go through the entire process. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I did want to go through some of the important things, like reading the guidelines. We've already talked about that, but you do want to read the guidelines to make sure your listing is abiding by the guidelines and that your listing is entitled to have a GMB listing in the first place. Now, you want to always include your legal or official business name. We're going to talk about naming a little bit later, but when you're going through the claiming process, you want to use your official name. And that's important because if for some reason your listing ever gets suspended, you need to prove that your legal business name is what it is, and you have to back that up with something like a business picture of your business sign or your business license or something from the Secretary of State. So you never want to fudge that. So don't add any keywords or a city name to your business name. It should only be your business name. We're going to talk about that in more detail, but I wanted to throw that out there just in case there are people that are going through that claiming process. So again, follow the guidelines or your listing could get suspended. So don't fudge your business name. Keep it what it really is. Don't make something up. So for instance, in these examples, Big Tex Gym, that's the right way to do it. Optimum Gym dash South Tampa, they added South Tampa, which is a descriptor and a city name. That is a violation of Google My Business terms and conditions. They are ripe for getting their listing suspended. Another example, we're going to talk about practitioners. Practitioners can only use their first and last name. They can't use any additional words except for MD if they're a doctor or Esquire if they're an attorney. They can use those type of credentials. And so in Amanda Brandt's case, she can't include the word realtor or the real estate agency that she works for. She can only include Amanda Brandt. So attorneys, physicians, chiropractors, dentists, they can only use their first and last name because they're considered practitioners. So that's very important that you name yourself correctly if you are one of those types of people. Are there any questions that are coming in about that?
Not yet, but I just think that that's such an important point, especially as SEOs. I think that the first thing that we think of is like, how can we optimize this tag? So just knowing that, again, just paying attention to those little things that can cause you major headaches down the road is huge. So
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we see people all the time that get suspended and it's devastating for some of these local businesses. It can really literally make their phone stop ringing and they panic. And so following the rules, I talked to some people that are like, well, we've had our listing for 7 years and we haven't had any problem. And I tell them, well, you just haven't been caught. And now you got caught. So, you've been violating the rules the whole time. Google has just now caught you and you've gotten busted and you're suspended. And so just because you're not following the rules doesn't mean you're not going to eventually get suspended. So follow the rules ahead of time and don't break them, and you have nothing to worry about. Now, as far as selecting categories, during the claiming process, you'll be able to select one category, but you'll be able to select additional categories later. When you're selecting categories, your primary category or the first category you select should be the one that matches your business the closest. And you can't make up your own categories. You can't, choose your own. You have to select from predetermined categories that Google has. And so if you can't find one that doesn't match exactly, pick the closest one. But the first category you choose will be considered your primary category, and that directly impacts rankings. And so be sure you choose the closest one that directly matches what your business does. Okay. So, for instance, if you're a lawyer, you may not want to pick law firm. You may want to pick divorce lawyer because that's specifically what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I think
So,
that that's often a kind of a pitfall that a lot of people find themselves in is they're trying to appeal to certain categories because they're not seeing like a perfect match. So just keeping in mind like finding the closest thing that you can apply yourself towards, I think is super important.
yeah, think about what people are searching for. Um, and that should be like the category that you would want to pick first. And in some cases, like I use this example all the time, like um, landscapers, for instance, if they do lawn cutting in the summer, but they do snow removal in the winter, they may want to swap that main category out during the different seasons. And that's okay. You can do that. You just kind of want to be careful because if you change your category up too much, you may need to re-verify your business or it could cause a suspension. But there may be instances where you may want to swap those categories out depending, like HVAC, you may want to do more air conditioning in the summer, more heating in the winter, those types of things. Yep. Now we're going to talk a little bit about storefronts versus service area businesses, and we'll go into detail later. But storefronts can display their addresses on their Google My Business listings. Storefronts are businesses where they have signage out front, or if they're in an office complex, they have to have their name listed on the store or the office building's business directory, and they have to have a suite number and a sign outside their door. And that's kind of a Google requirement, especially if you get suspended. A service area business is where you actually go out to customers. So, an example of a service area business would be a plumber. Let's say they don't have a storefront where customers come to them, but they go out to the customer's home to fix their plumbing. So, Steve, that would be an example of a service area business. And that's probably what your business might be, is a service like that. Locksmiths are great examples. Plumbers, landscapers, they typically don't have storefronts. Pest control companies, they typically don't have storefronts where consumers come into. They cannot display their address on Google My Business, partly because most of them work out of their home and Google doesn't want home businesses to show up on Google Maps. So if anybody is out there and may be showing their home address on their Google My Business listing and their service area business, they need to go in and delete their address from their listing and select service areas instead. And service areas are basically cities, zip codes, or counties that you service, and you typically want to stay within a 2 hour driving distance when you select those. And again, I would say a lot of the suspensions that we see are because service area businesses are displaying their address and they get busted for that. So that's very important. Now, when you're claiming it, Google's going to ask you, they've actually kind of improved the process of claiming. They're going to ask you, do you have a storefront or a service area business? Check yes or no. So they've actually improved the process. Now, if you select yes, you're going to add your address, but don't add any additional definers like a cross street or any landmarks. So, for instance, if you're located in a mall, don't enter your address and then say Westdale Mall, for instance. Don't add anything additional. And then the other thing is you can't use PO box addresses, UPS box addresses, virtual office addresses, or co-working spaces. There are exceptions for virtual or co-working spaces, but they're very, very strict about that. You'd have to exclusively rent out an office, an executive office that's exclusively yours. You have business signage there. Your employees are working there during business hours. So they have to be there from 9 to 5 or whatever. And there's very strict rules. But generally speaking, no virtual offices, no co working office addresses. And believe me, Google knows where those WeWork and Verge and Regis offices are located at, because they have Google Maps, right? So they know where those office locations are.
A quick question for you that just kind of came to mind, Sherry. So, um, are I think that maybe a concern that maybe a few people might have here is they're seeing this and they're like, okay, well, we're talking about how we can optimize, how we can add as much possible information to our GMB listing as possible,
Mhm.
and then we're talking about service area businesses, and the the takeaway there is basically make sure that you're not listing an address if it's not a physical address.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking in my head like that might be like, okay, well, I don't, if I'm in that situation where, yeah, it's been listed on my profile for 7 years and I'm not wanting to take it off, are we seeing like that there's any sort of difference if you were to take that off, or is it actually better to actually fall in line with what the guidelines originally were for from an optimization standpoint?
Yeah, so from an optimization standpoint, it can hurt your rankings a little bit once you take that address off. But you will still show up. And so showing up is better than being suspended. So once you get suspended, you still need to, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mute my phone.
Sure.
Um, but once you're suspended, you have to fix it anyway.
Mhm.
And so the better option is to just go ahead and fix it ahead of time, because a competitor can report you. Google can figure it out on its own. And so it's really, truly better to just follow the rules.
Sure.
So what you would want to do is go in and just delete your address. Now, also be aware that if you do that, Google may want to re-verify your listing, or you could get suspended for doing that. And that's happened to me, where I had a landscaping company. They had their physical address showing. I went in and deleted the address, and boom, we got suspended. But it was easy to get reinstated because I told Google, hey, it's a service area business. We were complying with the rules and deleting the address. And they were like, yeah, you did the right thing. And so it was easy to get suspended. It's a lot harder to prove it the other way around. And so the other thing is, if you have a virtual office address and you get suspended, you can't just delete that virtual office address and select service areas.
They'll remember.
Yeah, you have to change it to your home address and
uh,
then have documentation to back that up too.
that's super good to know because I think that often we're the type of creatures that tinker with stuff and try to figure out if we can make it more optimized, and that might be a cautionary tale to avoid trying to uh, be tempted to put in one of those virtual office addresses. We had a
Right.
question come in from John here. I thought was interesting. John says, "I have a bi-coastal business with a headquarters in Atlanta and a second office in Northern California. We're a video and photo production company. Can I list both my offices in my Google My Business listing?"
So the question would be, do you have a physical location, and do you have employees staffed at those offices during business hours? And do you have signage, permanent signage at those locations?
Yeah. So I think that that's probably an important point. So, John, if you're listening still in there, I'm imagining you are. Um, let us know if you have those in there, and we can kind of give you a little bit more direction
Mhm.
because I believe that there's certain requirements that are in each place in order to make that work, right? So,
Right.
John says yes to Atlanta and home offices in California, but we go out on shoots.
Yeah, so in the, home office, then he would wanna be listed as a service area business, so you would not be able to display your address. You would, claim that by listing your home address so Google can send you the postcard, and then once you get the postcard, you'd go in and delete that address and then select service areas. For the business where you actually have an office where your employees are staffed, you can list that address, and then you'd be fine as long as you have permanent signage. You have to have some sort of permanent signage, and it doesn't mean like a sticker on the window. It has to be some sort of signage, yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions about that? Because I know this is a major area that people have a lot of confusion about, so I like to try and make this as clear as possible for people.
I think that's it. I think that answers his question. John says thanks.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. And so again, if you select no and you service different areas, you can select one service area, and don't worry, because you can add 19 other service areas after you get your listing verified. So don't worry about that. Now, the other thing is a hybrid business. And a hybrid business is basically when you have a storefront with an address and permanent signage and employees working there, but you also go out and service people at their home. So, examples would be a restaurant. They serve people at their place of business where people sit down and eat, but they also do food deliveries at home. Another example would be a home appliance store where they have a showroom, people pick out their refrigerator, their oven, and then the workers go out and deliver it, set everything up, and they also do appliance repairs at people's home. That's a hybrid business. So they are allowed to show their address and select service areas. But if they don't have permanent signage at that storefront, then they can only be listed as a service area. So they have to have employees working there during business hours and have permanent signage. Otherwise, they can only be listed as a service area business.
Sure.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like just a good rule of thumb is like, would you want someone showing up at your house at, any hour of day that you are, in business? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs will kind of understand the ramifications of that
Yeah,
once you start thinking about it really and be like, well, I did run to the dry cleaners. Like, I don't want people showing up at my house when I'm gone.
right.
And I think that's kind of what Google seems like they're trying to establish here is making sure that keeping that separation of home businesses kind of separate so that it doesn't clog up maps with
Hmm.
way too many home businesses, but
Yep.
also just keeping you guys safe so that you don't have, customers that maybe you're not familiar with or maybe you're not aware of just showing up at your house randomly. So,
Yep. And do you have a sign out front too? Because I know there are, I was talking to an attorney in New York, and they do run their business out of their home, but they have signage out front,
mm,
that permanent signage out front that lists their name. And so apparently that's a thing in New York where lawyers run their business out of their home. And so they do have permanent signage outside of their house. So they have like an downstairs is their office and upstairs is their home. And
interesting.
so you have to have signage, permanent signage. So that's the other thing. So in that case, they could list their home address because they have signage. And if they got suspended, they'd be able to take pictures of their signage and stuff like that. So, just make sure you have all that information so that you can show that to Google should you get suspended. The other thing is you want to enter a local phone number. Now, Google will give you options once you're verified to enter more than one phone number. And people will say, only one phone number listed. I listed 3 phone numbers. Why is only one showing up? And I was always puzzled by this too. I'm like, dang it, I listed a toll-free number and a local number. Why aren't they both showing up? Google only shows a primary phone number. And that's so that you can list your local phone number, which Google always wants to see a local phone number with a local area code. But you can make your primary phone number a tracking phone number, for instance. So let's say you want to actually track and find out how many leads you're actually getting from your Google My Business listing. You can use a service like CallRail or something like that and track your phone numbers that way. So just make your local number your second number and your CallRail number your first number, for instance. So when you're claiming it, just put your local phone number in, and then once you verified it, you can go ahead and swap those numbers out.
So if you were to do something like that, just thinking out loud, if you were to establish and put the call rail or whatever your trackable phone number is as your primary, in order to track to see how your Google My Business listing is doing, um, would Google show that one, which is likely going to be a non-local number, or is it going
Yes.
to prioritize the local phone number to show something that's more advantageous, maybe to from a customer perspective?
No, it will show the first number. So it'll show
Interesting.
the primary phone number. Yeah, it is. I mean, and at first I was like, why aren't they showing both? But that's they only show one.
Makes sense.
Um, and I don't know if they'll ever get to the point where they'll show more than one, because ideally, I would think it'd be nice if they showed a toll-free number, for instance, and a local number. But right now, they're only showing one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I would like them to show 2, but that's just me preferably, and I'm not Google, so I don't have a say.
I'm sure
But
there's a rhyme or reason behind it, or maybe not. I don't know.
maybe not, I don't know, but yeah, that's the way it works. So just so you know that you can go ahead and include that number, and then because your local number is still there and still being seen by Google, that will match up with your other online directories that has that number listed. Does that make sense too?
Totally.
So like Yelp and Merchant Circle, if you're using that local number, it's still attached to your Google listing. So you're still matching your name, address, phone number in that respect.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's really important, especially with a lot of the other verification services. They want to see that matching local number listed.
Right, exactly. Yep. The other thing is avoid once you claim your listing and you're waiting for your postcard, avoid making any changes to your listing. Because sometimes if you change something in your info section in your dashboard, when you get your postcard and you're trying to enter your PIN can become invalid. And we've seen that more and more on the help forum where people will say, hey, I'm trying to enter my PIN and it's not working. And we'll ask them, did you make changes to your information? And they'll say, yeah. And for some reason, if you make changes, sometimes that will cause your PIN to be invalid and you have to request another one. So I always advise people just don't make any changes until after you've gotten your postcard and you verified it, and then you can make changes. The other thing is don't make a bunch of changes at one time. If you sit down and upload 20 photos at once and then change this and change this, that can sometimes trigger a suspension. So make a change or two, walk away for a little while, and then come back and make another change or two, and then maybe call it a day. So just don't make a bunch of changes at one time because Google could see that as a suspicious activity and that could trigger a suspension. So just be careful about that as well. So then you should receive your postcard in 5 to 14 days. And if you don't, you can always request another one. And then if you still don't get that one, you can go to Google My Business Help. So as far as editing your information, you go to your GMB dashboard, or there's other ways too. You can now make edits directly from Chrome by searching for your business name, which you can do. Like I search for Early Bird Digital Marketing, and you can see in the red box, I can make edits to my listing directly from search,
Wow.
or you can just do the words my business and your listings will show up, and you can search for directly for make changes directly from search that way as well.
When did they roll that out? I had no idea that they have done that.
I don't know when they rolled it out, but I found it out too, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have more than one listing, you just do a search for my business, and as you can see in the bottom, all of your listings will show up, and you can go ahead and view your profile and make edits that way too. That way you are basically in search and you're able to make those changes. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can make edits directly from Google search. Now, service area businesses, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. But again, you go out to customers, and that can even mean going to a coffee shop. So, like, let's say you're a consultant and you go meet your clients at coffee shops. You're still a service area business as long as you're working with local customers. Hybrid business, again, you have a storefront, signage, employees working there, but also go out to meet with customers at their house. And then again, if you are one of those people that have a service area business and still have your address listed, go in and delete it and then set up your service areas so that you're in compliance. Naming, no keywords. Don't put keywords in your business name. As tempting as it might be, and it is tempting because it's been shown that keyword stuffing can help your rankings. If you get busted, you get suspended, and that's not good. And that's worse. Um, and your business name should match what your official business name is or how you're known. And typically, I tell people, your Secretary of State business name should ideally be your business name. And that should be the same name that you use on your signage. I mean, they should all kind of align, right? So this lawyer's name is, according to his Google My Business listing, is Griesman Law Office's medical malpractice lawyer. And on his website, it's that way. Well, everyone knows that it's easy to change a name on a website, right? It takes nothing to do that. But when you look at him on the Illinois Bar Association, it's just Creasman Law Offices. And so, he's running the risk of getting his listing suspended because everyone knows that the Bar Association is really the standard as to how law firms should be listing their business name. Now, if you have multiple practitioners, the rule of thumb is practitioners own their own listing. So don't set up, if you run a law firm or if you run a dental office, don't set up your practitioners' listings for them because they essentially own them. Because if they move to a different office or quit, they need to be able to change their information. The other tip is don't have all of your practitioners using the same category because sometimes they can get filtered out. So if you have some maybe dentists that practice and specialize in different areas, maybe that should be their first category versus just dentist, for instance. So think about a strategy on how you can diversify the categories to help them rank differently, or so you're not all competing for the same category. And again, name, first name and last name only. And they can't include the organization name as well. So just make sure you don't do that. The only exception really would be in like the commercial or like an insurance where instance Allstate Joe Miller, where he's the only person that's representing Allstate in that office, then he could do Allstate Joe Miller. Then that would be okay. But that's really kind of the only example where you can include the name of the company and your first and last name. So again, no keywords, those types of things.
Interesting.
And
So
go ahead.
I just wanted to jump back to that point one more time, just because I think that there is something important. So, when can you maybe touch on one more time the variation between having Allstate Joe Miller and Joe Miller insurance agent in your Google My Business listing, and why those two situations are different? Because I think that there's an important point to be made there.
Yeah. So for instance, if Joe Miller is if he has an office and he's the only Allstate representative in that office, he could say Allstate Joe Miller. But if it was an Allstate office and there were more than one representatives, then he could just be Joe Miller.
Gotcha.
He couldn't even be Joe Miller, comma, insurance agent. He can
Interesting. Okay.
only be Joe Miller. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Just like if you're a real estate agent, you can't say Susie Smith, comma, realtor. You can't
Gotcha.
add any defining or any explainer words after your name. It can just be your first and last name. And I'm trying to see if I thought I had the definition from Google. So you can see right from Google, the title of the listing for the practitioner should include only the name of the practitioner and shouldn't include the name of the organization. So yeah, it's kind of sticky because in the real estate world, they also have to adhere to guidelines. And in some cases, Google's guidelines conflict with realtor guidelines. And I've had pushback from realtors saying, we're breaking guidelines if we do that. And, it's like, well, you don't have to have a Google listing. I don't know what to tell you other
Yeah,
than,
that's tough.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I can tell you Google's guidelines and you can do what you choose to do, but just know that you could get suspended. So yeah, it's a tricky situation in some cases. But this one cracks me up. Don't keyword stuff your business name.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, don't
Yep.
do that. That's bad. Now, what you can do is, and agencies will do this for their clients too. So if you see a competitor that's violating any guidelines, whether it's naming or whether it's an online business and they shouldn't have a listing at all, you can suggest an edit. And you just go to their listing, suggest an edit. You can either change the name, or if you know they're working out of their home, you can remove this place and it will give you the option to say, this business doesn't see customers at their location. And you can sometimes that change will take effect almost immediately, depending on what Google's algorithm says. Sometimes it may take a little while and Google will need to review it, and sometimes a change isn't made. But you can go ahead and do that yourself. What I generally tell people is don't use your main email address that you use to manage your listing. Set up a different Gmail address to do those types of suggested edits. Because if you get a lot of rejected suggested edits, that might put your listing at risk potentially. So set up a different Gmail address for like suggested edits. That's what I recommend, and that's what most people recommend as well. But as you can see in this case, I was able to get the suggested edit live pretty quickly. Now, the other thing is if you see competitors that are violating rules pretty heavily, like let's say they're an online business only, or they are at home office and they shouldn't be listing their address, you can fill out what's called a redressal form. So you filled out the suggested edit, it didn't go through, you can fill out a redressal form, and that's a more official way of reporting people that are violating Google's guidelines. You are going to want to submit proof, like upload photos. Maybe you go to their home and you can show their address on their house and upload that photo, or you see on Google Maps that it's clearly a picture of a house, you can upload that. Or you go to their address and you see and you show a picture of their sign and it doesn't match what's on their Google My Business listing, you can upload that. Upload as much proof as you can showing that they're violating something, and then Google will manually go in and review those redressal forms. And so this is a more formal way of reporting people. And so again, it's really important that you fill out your information completely, because suggested edits can sometimes get made to your listing as well. So keep that in mind. So you always want to be looking at your listing to make sure nobody changed your information. And I'll give you an example of a local high school where some kid went in and changed their website to a porn site. And so it was like that for more than 24 hours before the school realized that their website had been changed by somebody. And so it's always a good idea to go in and check your information as well, because we hear all the time people saying a competitor changed my phone number to their phone number. So just keep in mind that that can happen to you too. So
That's
just
shady.
always, yeah, yeah. So just go in and check and monitor to make sure your website is still your website and not a competitor's website or a porn site, for instance, if you're a school. Download the Google My Business app. If you don't have it downloaded, have it downloaded to your phone. It's available on Android and Apple. It's good to have in case you get reviews. You can reply to them quickly. If you set up messaging, you can reply to those messages quickly. So download the app. Picking categories, again, make sure your first categories, your primary categories, are most closest to what you want to be known for. And then you can add, I think, up to 10 categories, I think. But I generally say about 3 to 4 is probably about a good number of categories that you want to pick. And again, there are certain features available to you depending on your category. So, for instance, hotels have completely different features available, like checking availability and booking and stuff like that, that a digital marketing agency doesn't have. And then, you know, picking the category can also show up in search results. So, for instance, depending on what you search for my business, it'll show category of internet marketing services, but also an advertising agency. So those categories do matter. And if you find out that you're not ranking for the category that you want to be ranking for, you may want to change that category over time and test it too. But
Real quick,
again,
Sherry, oh,
yeah,
sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to jump in. We had a question real quick
Mhm.
from Nancy regarding the suggested edit. Nancy asks, are you saying that the website was hacked? How can people just change your listing?
No, no. Anybody can make a suggested edit to your listing. Just anybody can do that. And Google does that because they want user feedback. And really business owners sometimes think this is my listing, I own it. You don't. It's essentially Google's listing. And they want feedback from users because in a lot of cases, businesses aren't keeping their listing up to date. And so, for instance, a user can go in and suggest new business hours. So if they go in at 6 o'clock on a Friday night and the business is closed, a consumer can go in and suggest an edit and say that they were closed at 6 o'clock. So anybody can go in and change your information. It's just a matter of how trustworthy they think that user is to make that change. So they weren't hacked. Somebody just made that change and Google's algorithm took it. So yeah, they weren't hacked.
So
It's just that Google took that change.
so maybe the other person had like a high ranking, like they'd made suggested
Authority.
edits elsewhere that were approved and people
Yep.
were all okay with, but they might have gone in on this particular instance and made a URL suggestion update. And Google said, "Hey, you've done, 20 other suggested edits without a problem. We're just going to go ahead and
Yep.
push this through."
Yep.
And then you have situations like what happened to that high school where it's,
Exactly.
something that clearly shouldn't be in place just gets swept under the rug.
Yep, exactly. And that's exactly what happens in cases where competitors change, a competitor's phone number or a competitor's URL to be their URL. It's the same type of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's why you want to go in frequently to check your listing to make sure its integrity is still there and nothing has been changed. Yep.
Good point. Yeah. Thanks, Nancy.
Great question. And again, changing your category too often can sometimes trigger a suspension or trigger Google to want to re-verify your listing. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure your business hours are correct because if a customer drives to your place of business and you're closed, who do you think they're going to blame?
They're going to blame you.
They're going to blame you. They're not going to blame Google. So if you're going on a holiday and you're taking a week off, go to your Google My Business listing and fix it. If you're taking, Black Friday off as a holiday, change it. Now, I always tell people change and, set those hours or those holiday hours at least 3 days in advance because Google will sometimes need to verify those hours. So allow at least 3 days in advance beforehand. So do all that 3 days in advance at least so that Google has time to verify and say, yep, those are okay. We're going to go ahead and push those out. Business descriptions, 750 characters, but only 250 are going to be displayed before they get cut off. So what I tell people is make sure that the most important 250 characters, the most important words are at the beginning of your business description. And don't be hypey, don't be pitchy, don't try and sell like 20% off this and 20% off that because Google will actually read your business description and it can get rejected. Doesn't happen very often, but it could get rejected. So, use the most important words first. And business descriptions do not help your rankings. So don't keyword stuff your business description. Doesn't impact rankings at all. So it's really meant to show consumers why they should pick you. So think of it that way. Short names are awesome. They have made it a lot better for a number of reasons, what I'm going to show you. But if you go to the info section, you will see a section where it says short name. You can change your short name 3 times every 12 months. But don't change it once you set it because there's really no need to because you may not be able to get that short name back. Somebody else might take it. But go ahead and pick a short name. They can be between 5 and 32 characters. And if you look at these URLs, the first URL links directly to your knowledge panel. So if you want to give that URL to a customer, they will go right to your knowledge panel. If you just replace the word short dash name, they'll go right to your knowledge panel. But the second one's even cooler. If you replace short dash name with your URL, it'll take that person directly to leave a review for you. So you no longer have to say, search for my business name. You'll see my knowledge panel on the right-hand side, click on reviews, and then leave a review for me. This makes it super simple to ask customers to leave reviews for you. So
Yeah,
that
that's
short
huge.
name is perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And everybody should be asking customers to leave reviews. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Um, no, I mean, I do have thoughts on that. I think that it's amazing because I have been the person before that's like, okay, go to this big long string, and then you have to go through, and if you are trying to make it look nice, you throw it in Bitly or one of these
Right.
shorteners or something, and then it kind of looks sketchy. And yeah, I this is a fantastic upgrade, and I'm very happy they did that. I did see we had another question pop in here real quick, and this is just jumping back here real fast. Steve asks, so getting back to the GMB naming,
Mhm.
I have a client who is managing a partner for a law firm, and I have a GMB listing for him, but the firm also has their own Google My Business listing.
Yep.
Is that a violation or is that allowed by Google?
Nope, that's absolutely allowed, and that's the way it should be. So the firm should have their own listing, and then the attorney should have his listing, and his listing should only be his first and last name. Now, where there may be a conflict and one of them may be getting filtered out because they're both at the same address is if they have the same first category. So, what you may want to do is look at that individual attorney, that practitioner, and see what his first category is. If he specializes in a certain type of law, like whether it's DUI or criminal law, maybe that should be his first category instead of just lawyer, for instance.
Yeah, I think that makes great sense. Great
Yep.
question, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks. Opening date. A lot of people have not even looked at the opening date or not put an opening date down, but now you should. And here's why. So at the bottom of the info section, there's this little thing that says opening date. And most people just ignored this for the longest time. You should put your opening date. Now, this can be the date that your location opened or the date you started your business. And the reason why this is important is Google is now starting to show the number of years a business has been in business or at that location in certain search results for certain categories. And this is important because this can impact buying decisions. If you see that a business has been in business for 25 years versus a company that's only been in business for less than a year, does that impact your trust? Does that, make you trust a company more than another company? It may. And so you can see in these search results that the number of years in business is showing. So it's definitely important to now add your opening date. Attributes, attributes, attributes. Um, Attributes are different features that basically sort of describe or add extra information about your business. Attributes, again, depend on your category. So, what you see on some of these slides may not be available to you. But Black owned, women or veteran led, and women led are available to most everybody. So, if you're in your info section, you will see attributes and you will likely see, other attributes as well. You'll see health and safety attributes, and we'll talk about them in the COVID section as well. But you may see online appointments and on site services due to COVID. Are you seeing people on site? You can check that, and that will display in your search results. So check your attributes, see what attributes are available to you, and make sure you choose the ones that are applicable to your business. Posts. Posts, I don't like to say they're like social media posts because they're really not, but you can create a variety of different posts. You can create a COVID-19 post, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that basically tells people what's going on at your business about COVID. Are you open? Or is there anything consumers need to be aware of? Do they need to wear a mask? Those types of things. Offer posts, update posts, event posts. Perfect if you're having a sale, for instance. You can have a 2-day sale and set that event post or product post as well. The cool thing is if you have messaging set up on mobile devices, people can message you directly from your post. So that's kind of a cool thing too. Now, posts typically expire after 7 days. They still kind of show up, but Google will send you an alert saying, hey, your post is expiring, add another one. Or if you have an event post, it will expire when the event is over. And so it's generally a good idea to do posts. I generally say 3 to 4 times a month. You can do them more often, but I generally don't. But you certainly can.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out where posts on GMB live. Like I I don't really understand because, like you alluded to before, they're not really social media posts. They're
Right.
kind of more like bulletins
Yeah.
that you would post, like almost like signage for your
Right.
store, right?
It's
Am I
yeah, it's almost
understanding
like
that?
it's almost like an ad. They used to show up higher in your knowledge panel. Now they show up almost at the bottom.
Interesting. Okay.
But what I found is, like, for instance, one of my self-storage facilities, what I've noticed is when we do an offer, those offer posts get way more views than a general post does. And so I try and encourage them to come up with an offer every month so that at least one of the posts that I make can be an offer post, because we see a lot more engagement with offer posts than we do with general posts, at least in that niche. And so it's interesting to try and test out different posts to see, because you can see insights in your Google My Business dashboard. You can see how many people viewed a post, how many people clicked on it. And so it's worthwhile testing out different posts to see the engagement and which ones pull better for you. Um, but they do live at the bottom, which is kind of a disadvantage. But I do think they're important because Google sees that you're interacting and that you're adding content to your GMB listing, and they want to see people that are engaged with their listing and their platform. So I think that does make a difference.
I think that makes sense.
Yep.
I had another question come in here real quick. Uh, they say, I'm not sure if this has been answered yet, so my apologies if we've covered it already. I have multiple clients with the same exact business name, but different addresses, numbers, and websites. They're a family owned company where someone has decided to branch off without totally changing the business name. Often they're not showing up in the map pack. Is this because Google is confused?
It could be. Are they, especially if they're in the same location? So yeah, I would say if they have the exact same name and they're in different addresses, but I'm hoping they have different phone numbers. That would be my guess, is they have different phone numbers. Um, but my guess would be the name. Um, if they're in close proximity to one another, that also might be part of the issue too. So
Yeah.
if they're in the same city,
Yep.
that might be part of the issue as well.
Yep. Looks like they're in, some are in the same city, some are in different states. So
Yeah.
looks like there's
Yeah.
a bit of a grab bag of each.
Yeah, if they're in the same city, I would say that that's definitely probably a confusing thing to Google. Now, if they were all in the same dashboard and they were all managed by the same person, there would probably be some sort of duplicate listing issue that would be raised by Google. Google would probably say, "What's going on here?" But I have a feeling that's why, is because exact same name, different locations. It's probably seen as being kind of suspicious to Google.
Do you have any quick tips that might be able to, or like workarounds in order to, because it sounds like that, I mean, if Google is not actually showing up some of these business entities inside of MapPack, I mean, that could be a pretty significant business issue.
Yeah. I guess, are they not showing up in the local finder at all would be the first question. So when you click on other places, are they showing up at all? That would be my first question, because they should show, all of them should show up at least in the local finder. They may not show up at the top, but they should show up at least in the local finder. So that would be my question back to him.
Yeah, they're saying that they're not showing up in the local finder at all. So
Okay, so here's what I would do. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a link to the Google My Business Help Forum. And that is a forum where volunteers, like the product experts like myself, go on and ask questions. I would suggest you go to that and ask that question there, and then myself or one of the other product experts can kind of look into it and see if we might be able to help out. I guess the other question is, are the family members friendly to one another? Because that would be helpful if they'd be willing to kind of work together on solving this issue too. If they're adversarial, that might be another whole problem.
I think that's huge. I think that's a big portion of
Yeah.
the factors as well. Awesome,
Yep.
thank you. So we'll grab that link and we'll throw that in the chat as soon as we
Yep.
can. But
Yep.
thank you so much for your question, and we'll get back to your
Yep.
slides there.
Yep. Awesome. Great. Good question. Very good question. The other thing with regard to the posts, be sure to put a call to action. A call to action is at the bottom, and you can include book, online, order online, buy, call. If you click call, it will automatically pre-populate with your phone number. You can include a URL. So always, 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 every marketer should include a call to action in whatever they do. So take advantage of call to actions. And then as far as the post image size, 1200 by 900 is the preferred size. But here's the bad thing. Google crops things in a really, really weird, strange way. So I try and avoid putting text on there as much as possible. The other thing is don't include email addresses, website URLs, or phone numbers in the content of your post because chances are the post will get rejected if you do that. So don't do that. Up until probably, I would say 2 months ago, you were okay with that. But lately, all posts with those types of things in an email, website URL, or phone number, they've been getting rejected.
Interesting.
But if you, and then you also don't want to put too much text on your picture because if you have too much text, that can reject it as well. But you'll notice how different they look on mobile versus desktop. You can see how the text gets cut off differently. So just, be careful when you're using text on images because it can kind of create an issue um, with mobile versus desktop. So I try and find images that are nice looking without text if possible. The more photos you have, the more user and customer engagement. Studies have shown that 90% of customers are more likely to visit a business that has more photos in search results. So that's a Google study right there. Adding photos is simple. Just go on photos and click on the little plus sign. You can add photos and videos. The videos can only be 30 seconds, so that's the disadvantage. You can also set your cover image and logo, but I will tell you this right now there's a bug with cover images and photos. There's a known bug and it probably won't be fixed until later this year. So if you're trying to upload your photo or your cover image or your logo, it may not take. And that is not something that can be fixed right now if it doesn't take. The other catch is if you are able to upload your cover image, Google may decide to show another cover image anyway. It's their preference. So just keep that in mind as well. Kind of stinks, but it is what it is.
Hopefully it's updated here soon.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And then here is the information with regard to videos. And so if your videos that you upload don't match these file sizes, your post will get rejected as well. We see that all the time. Messaging, thank goodness messaging has come to desktop now. And so you can now see messaging from your desktop versus just the mobile app. And so it's a great way to connect with your customers. So this is awesome. So you can either set up messaging through your desktop or your mobile app, your GMB mobile app. So it's viewable and you can turn it on right now through your desktop if you'd like. Always reply to messages promptly though, because if you don't, Google has the option to turn off messaging and make that option not available to you.
It's forcing us to not be procrastinators. I like that. I
Ex-
need that. I need a little bit
I-
of a threat. Like, you better do this
exactly.
or we'll take it away.
Right, right. Now, we're not really sure if that's 24 business hours or 24 hours. Um, I'm thinking it's 24 hours. So just try and be on top of it when someone messages you that you respond promptly.
So probably get the app is what you're saying.
Yeah, you want to have the app so that you get the notifications because you don't really get notified on the desktop version. You do get notified on the mobile app. There's a little blip that shows up saying you got a message. Yep.
Good.
Now, the other thing you want to be aware of is when you reply to messages or you have one of your employees reply to messages, it comes from you personally. It does not come from the business. And to me, that's another downside. I would rather it come from the business name than one of my employees' personal names.
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping Google changes that, but I don't know if they're going to. But just be aware of that. So if you have one of your employees listed as a manager of your GMB listing, you may want to give them a heads up that when they reply, or if they're given authority to reply to messages, to customers' messages, that they're replying and that customer will know their name. And it's kind of a weird situation for agencies that are helping customers if they reply, because I've heard of one person that one of the customers knew that agency owner or that agency person, and they're like, I didn't know you worked for this car dealership,
Oh,
and
wow.
they're like, I really don't. So I don't know if Google's going to change that or not, but
I
right
hope
now
they
that's
do.
the way it is. Yep.
I hope they do. That seems really chaotic
Yeah, and
and
it's kind of, I
confusing.
think, almost not an invasion of privacy, but I think there is a privacy issue that goes along with that.
Agreed.
So we'll see what happens, but that's the way it is right now. So I wanted to kind of let everybody know that ahead of time. Messaging on Google app, you can do that as well. To do that, you go to your home page if you are or the main page that you want to manage. If you're managing multiple accounts, click on more, click on settings, click on messages, turn messaging on. And again, Google tracks to see how quickly you respond. The other crummy thing is, depending on, in some cases or in certain categories, instead of messaging, it will say get quotes. And Ben, you may know about this. It'll say request a quote. What Google will do in some cases is show competitors and say, do you want to also request quotes from these businesses?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
I
Fortunate.
was the one that discovered that. And so what they did at first was they just showed the competitors. And then the next week, when I tested it again, they pre-populated it with check marks.
Ooh,
Yeah,
even worse.
even worse. Yeah. So we haven't quite figured out exactly what industries it comes in. We've been playing around with it, but we think it's based on industry categories that happens. So there's some businesses that just don't want to touch messaging because of that. So I wanted to just let everybody know that that may happen depending on what industry you're in. So I just want everybody to be aware of that as well. And I wrote the words "not cool" in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, it seems like taking a really cool feature and then kind of grabbing it by the heel a little bit and slowing it down. Hopefully, that's another update that at least you can opt into or opt out of or something.
Yeah, I mean, especially when someone goes through the trouble of perhaps even seeking out a business to get a request. And that's what I did in this instance. I actually did a search for a business and pressed the button to get a quote. And I thought it was really kind of crummy that they showed me other competitors, and these competitors weren't even in the same city as
Hmm.
as the business that I reached out to. They were like, these are like 2 hours away.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know the rhyme or reason, but yeah. So anyway, just wanted to let everybody know about that. So hopefully you guys
Good to
find
know.
that interesting as well.
Yeah.
And then again, I did say that on mobile devices, when you create a post and you have messaging set up, customers can message you directly from your post. Another reason to create posts. How am I doing on time? Doing
I think
okay?
we're good. Yeah,
Okay.
we're just a couple minutes after the hour, but I think we're in good
Okay.
shape.
I'll book through this pretty quickly. Q&A, that's a great question and answers is where anybody can ask you a question, anybody can answer a question. The disadvantage is you cannot access this feature through your dashboard. You have to actually search for your business name and then click on questions and answer those questions. So you want to make sure that you're checking for them. Now, the interesting thing is Google has started to use their artificial intelligence to try and answer questions from reviews that you have or posts that you've made. And so if you go and you type in, for instance, how long does a claim take? What Google does is it looks at the reviews for a business and tries to answer that question.
Hmm.
And the same thing from a law firm. What is alimony? It looked at the posts and tried to answer the question that a customer was asking. So this is just another reason to come up with high quality posts and hopefully have reviews that have keywords in them if you can try and convince customers to get keywords in them.
Is there an advantage to, because I know that earlier on in the conversation you had mentioned that the content of your posts is not something that is um,
It doesn't
plays
help
into the,
rankings.
yeah, it doesn't play into like the optimization aspect of things, but would it tie into it if there's like something like this feature where it's like Q&A that's pulling from other areas of your listing? Is there a potential there for answering maybe some of the questions about maybe what you do in the description or what you do in some of the posts so that it can kind of match those Q&A sections up?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it really did. So, for instance, Feinberg and Waller APC, what is alimony? The post directly answered that question. Alimony is a payment made to a spouse or support. So, in that instance, that the post directly answered that my question. So, it was perfect. And so I think it's really good to really think maybe the posts that you make are answers frequently asked questions that your customers have, and you might be solving two things at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah, love it. I think that's
Yep.
right in line with our SEO mindset of answering questions. So perfect.
Yep. Yep. So that I think is interesting too. The other thing you can do is proactively fill out Q&As. So you can go in and ask yourself a question and answer your own question. The other thing is if you upvote by clicking on the thumbs up, that will give that question more visibility. And I think it's if you get 3 or more upvotes, you will actually that your question and answer will actually show up in the knowledge panel. That the most upvoted question will show up in the knowledge panel. So that's a good thing too.
Good to know.
Okay, I'm going to move through online reviews a little bit faster too. So online reviews are important. People read them. If you have a review that is blatantly a fake review, and we're not talking about just a review that you don't like, because Google won't take those down, what you can do is flag it. It's preferred you do it through your dashboard. Click on the review, click on the 3 dots, and then flag is inappropriate. Google will review it, and then they will let you know whether or not they'll take it down. Now, if it's a really bad review and Google doesn't take it down, you can go to the help forum and ask one of the product experts to take a look at it. Now, we're talking about bad. We're talking about like curse words or harassment or something like that. But if it doesn't violate Google's rules, they won't take it down because they just don't know who's telling the truth.
Sure.
So it probably won't get removed. Suspensions, I want to get to this real quick. At some point, your listing is probably going to get suspended. Hate to tell you that, but if you see that little red box, your listing's suspended. And there's soft suspensions and hard suspensions. Soft suspensions are when your listing still shows up, but you can't edit anything. So it's like it hasn't been claimed. Hard suspension is when you are off the grid, buddy. You are not showing up at all. And so when you get suspended, you really have to put on your detective hat and figure out, what am I doing wrong? What rule did I break? And that's when you need to go back to those guidelines that we talked about and figure out, what rule am I breaking? And in most cases, if you read the guidelines, you can figure it out. Most people just automatically assume I didn't do anything wrong, and they'll submit the reinstatement request. They'll get denied and panic and say, why did they deny me? Here are some common reasons for suspensions. I'm not going to read through them, but here's some common ones. I'll let you guys look at them real quick.
And a lot
But
of those, it looks like we covered a lot of those in
yep.
what we were talking about before, even.
Hmm.
So
Yep. And don't list your business 24/7 if you don't have employees there. People do that. Don't do that, because that's a red flag right there. Um, and then you have to fix your listing before you fill out the reinstatement form. And then you also have to upload proof. And so that all ties back to making sure your business should be in alignment. Make sure your Secretary of State matches. If it doesn't, file a fictitious business name with the signage that you have and the address that you have. I mean, make sure that's just common business sense, but make sure everything aligns, because you will have to upload proof of everything to Google. and then ask your business, what did I do? Fix it. Whatever you do, do not create a new profile, because you're going to have duplicate listing issues and you're going to get that listing suspended. And do not submit more than one reinstatement request form, because that will slow the process down. Now, I did write an article for Search Engine Journal about what to do if your Google My Business gets suspended. So you can go ahead and read that. I think if you just do a search for that, it'll probably show up at the top of search results. COVID-19, if you're a struggling business, you can mark your business as temporarily closed, permanently closed, and in some cases, not all cases, you can remove your listing completely. If you're temporarily closed, you'll still show up in search results, but your rankings will lose juice over time. You'll start dropping in the rankings, but you'll still show up. And then, yeah, again, restaurants have different options due to COVID. These features weren't available before, but thank you, COVID. We now know if this restaurant delivers or does curbside service and that kind of stuff. And then you can update service availability. I don't think a lot of people check this. On home, on the home screen, click on update service availability, and you'll get different selections about what you can and cannot do as far as features. There's new features that are probably available to you that you probably don't even know are there. And then there's health and safety attributes that you should check if they are applicable to your business. COVID posts, which we talked about. And then here we go. We're almost done, guys. If you have any issues, this is your Google My Business help. So this is a support forum. This is, or the support page. You go through a process. They'll basically ask you questions. What problem are you having? And then they'll give you a way that you can email Google support. This is the link. I'm going to actually copy this real quick. This is the link to the Google My Business help forum. Now we are not Google My Business employees. We are all volunteers. So what I tell people is please be nice to us.
Please.
Yeah, we get some grumpy people sometimes. And then this is the Google My Business support. I'll put that in there as well. But this is a great place because we can sometimes escalate issues to Google and get them resolved. You should always go to support first. But if support is unable to help you or whatever, you can go ahead and come to the forum, and sometimes we can escalate things directly to Google. And that's it. Boom. We're done.
Nailed it. That was fantastic. I think that there is so much information in there that I need to go back through all of our Google My Business listings and just do everything top to bottom. That was awesome. Cool. So I'm just real quick, I'm just making sure. Were you guys able to see those links that Sherry posted? Because I think that resource is massive. I just wanted to double check because sometimes Zoom's a little weird and it sends it out to only panelists. So
Yeah, let me see. I think I might have some more links I can send you to.
But that was fantastic. I think just seeing some of the pitfalls and knowing some of those things that are going to help prevent you from getting flagged by Google, I think those in and of themselves are massively beneficial. Just because, as you mentioned, like it's probably going to be something you're going to encounter, especially if you're in digital advertising and digital marketing.
Yep.
It's going to happen. So I love that you were able to include some of those as well.
And I think that's one of the things, because Google doesn't tell you these things. They don't tell you why you get suspended. They don't do that kind of stuff. Let me stop sharing my screen. They just don't tell you that kind of stuff. And so there's so much that you learn, like being a product expert, there's so much that you learn just by helping people on the forum. And that's why I love doing these presentations, because there's so many little gotchas that you just don't know unless you've been doing it for, a number of years. And so I love doing this kind of stuff. I love helping people like this. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And I mean, even as you saw, like we had numerous questions in here with very specific examples, and every example is going to have like its own little quirks and nuances that you're going to have to kind of work through. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of a puzzle factor to it of I mean, as you mentioned, like Google doesn't tell you exactly what you did wrong because my guess is because they think people will game the system that way. And
That's
so
right.
they just kind of like lay out the rules and say, follow these rules and hopefully you don't get dinged.
Right,
um,
right. And that's exactly right. They don't tell you why you got suspended because they don't, just like they won't tell you how you can rank high. They don't want you to know. Yep.
they don't want you to know.
They don't want
Otherwise,
you to
you'd
know.
be out of a job.
Right, exactly.
Well, awesome. Sherry, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us and go over all of the tips and tricks and everything about optimizing Google My Business. As I
Thank you.
mentioned, there's so much in there, there's so much information. And as we found out, like they're constantly updating things as well. So doing these frequently, I feel like we might have to do another one of these.
I would love to. That'd be awesome. Yeah, we can talk about new stuff. It's
Perfect.
always coming out. They're always testing, always.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it. Hopefully, we can do it again soon. Sherry, thank you again so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to
Awesome.
you
Thanks,
later.
guys. I will talk to you all in the next one.
All right. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.